old friends. As president of the King Alfred School Society, it's my privilege to open proceedings and welcome society members, every one of you, unless there's a cheat here, to our 126th annual general meeting. As president, I also get to chair the society committee on council, and I get to decide how to spend the subscription money that you all pay. I spend your money. And on the society committee, we have a 3-word summary of what we want to do. The 3 Ps: preserve, progress, and promote. Not easy to say on a microphone, is it? You got the idea. I don't have to describe that for you, I'm sure. Well, we started off last year. I will report to you now on the society doings. We started off at the beginning of the year with a good preserve session. And that was an examination of the ethos, a health check, yes? And we invited School 6, lots of them, to our meeting. And let them talk, let them say everything they could think of. And then we had a very lively discussion, and then we followed it with another one with TAC. TAC came and held the next one with School 6. And the big takeaway that the committee got was that these 6th formers were the living embodiment of the ethos. They were bright, kind people who loved the school and expressed their views openly and fairly. They were good communicators. So we felt the ethos is alive and well. Under progress, we've invested a lot of money this year in research. And I can describe some of the things we spent money on. Number 1, a study on the acquisition of higher order thinking skills in the 6 to 8 program, in the multidisciplinary approach. And that was 2-pronged. It was both students' awareness of whether they were getting these higher order thinking skills, and also then the focus was on teachers, how they could promote these skills. Second piece of research was a research on how to research, which we did with Harvard, very posh. And with flourishing as a project theme. And the students are evidently becoming junior research fellows. That's what happens if you work with Harvard. Number 3, some training in transactional analysis for a small sample of volunteer staff to equip them to deal with complex behavioral group dynamics. And I'm not looking at you. I am looking at her. Number 4, a commissioned piece of research into assessment at university level. How do they do it? And in particular, how the variety of assessment methods that we know they use contribute to the argument that schools should use a broader range of assessment. Under promote, we will support the next conference on assessment, which is on March 18th in Manchester, very handy, with a session all about that last piece of research, how higher universities, how do they assess people, not exams. So under promote, I also include TEDx. That was our major achievement of the year and our major expense. And I think you could get it under all 3 Ps if you tried. Czar, our wonderful estates manager, his correct title, head of operations, sounds a bit scary and surgical. Czar, our resident poet and philosopher, he started TEDx off with some wonderful story workshops. He was a font of useful, quirky facts and quotes for all. Sadly, Czar is leaving KASS, but it's not sad for TEDx, as he is already committed to returning next year for the same set of workshops. How does he know all that? Was the comment of one student on hearing him quote the ancient Greeks off the cuff. Stretched over 5 months, then ensued a wonderful collaboration of students, staff, and parents, ending with an adrenaline-filled day of 17 talks, which will be up there online any day now. Huge team support from the Society Committee, particularly from Tracy Preston, and also Galia Shiloh-Sum, who was by my side the entire time. And let's also mention Matt and the Phoenix, who made it all very, very slick and glossy. So we gave 17 people that day, a day they will remember forever, and shared some nice little nuggets of personal truths and wisdom to feed on. My last duty, before I shut up, is to, and let the meeting get on, is to thank our new chair that I can't see but is sitting right behind me, Sam Jukes-Adams. Annabelle Cody, who retired in the summer, is a hard act to follow, but we are all very, very confident that you will manage. You will manage to follow, no problem. A quote comes to mind. You can see a train when it's coming. Now that's usually, I can't find out who said that first, but I love it. It usually means that something big and important can't really be missed. It's obvious from some distance off. And that's how it was with Sam. Sam's been on council for years, and you could see her coming. She had such pertinent questions she came up with, such a bright mind, and absolutely committed to the school. And with a background in Bedales, why not? But the good news, we found her, and she said yes. And she is going to take on the role and go bravely forward into the next few years. We thank her very much for that. And before I do stop, if anyone does see a president train coming, please do let me know. I'm very grateful every year that you re-elect me, but if you can see that train coming, do let me know, and I will get off the tracks and onto the platform straight away. Thank you. On with the show.
Thank you, Cara. If you do see that train coming, can you tell me as well? Welcome, everyone. As Cara said, I'm Sam Jukes-Adams. I'm your new chair. Thank you for that. I'm very flattered to be taking it on. And as Cara says, they're big boots. They're not even shoes. They're big boots to fill. I just want to introduce you to the speakers behind me. We've got Fiona Hackett, who is the chair of Grounds and Buildings, one of the committees of council. Nick Friedlos, our treasurer. Caroline Konitsky, who is our new DFO, and Robert I'm going to orientate you through the evening just now. Following my report on the activities of council, we're going to hear reports from Fiona, from Nick, and from Caroline, who will take us through the formal part of the business. To help the flow of the meeting, rather than taking questions at the end of each report, other than in relation to the accounts, there'll be an opportunity to ask any questions at the end of the formal meeting. And we can also ask questions on the accounts before the vote to adopt the report and accounts is taken. Don't worry, Caroline will guide us through really neatly. Then we're going to have a short break, and after the break, when we come back, Robert will give us his, what I call his speech, actually. It's a report, but I always think it's a very thoughtful, observational speech. We're aiming to, it better be a thoughtful, observational speech, now I've said that. We're aiming to finish the formal part of the AGM by 8 p.m. and the whole evening by around 8:45. I have, firstly, apologies from 2 council members, David Gosson and Angie de Hadre. My second bit of business is to adopt the minutes from the AGM of the 7th of February 2023. Do we need a hand? All hands, yeah. I'd love you all to raise your hands, unless there is something that you don't want to adopt in those minutes, but I'm assuming that there isn't. I'm so pleased my eyesight is phasing because I can put my glasses on my head and I really don't have to see you, and that's making this a lot easier. This year, as there were 5 council places to be filled and 8 nominations, there will be a contested ballot. In a moment, I would like to introduce the nominations in alphabetical order, Some of you may have already voted, but for those of you who have not voted, please complete a paper ballot, including your name for checking purposes, and put it in the ballot box before the end of the meeting. The ballot box, as Caroline, our incredible clerk and genuine, amazing assistant, frankly, has just pointed out, it's over there in the corner. I'd like to ask the candidates to stand when I call their name. I'm going to do this, as I said, in alphabetical order. So, new candidate, Billy Bacall. Billy, where are you? Standing for re-election, Amy Chapman. New candidate, Rebecca Clark. New candidate, Phoebe Darcy. New candidate, Muriel Hoffner. Standing for re-election, myself. New candidate, Galia Shiloh-Sum. And standing for re-election, Philip Whale. Thank you. So I have to thank, although I will mention her again, our retiring council members, and this year that's Annabelle Cody and Christian Schmidt, and retiring by rotation, Amy and Philip, who obviously you just applauded, and rightly so. Thank you. Okay. So now for my report on all things from a council perspective. So in 1897, the King Alfred School Society was formed to provide a new model of education and to influence the educational landscape. Reacting to the selective and exam-focused Victorian school system, 1 year later the founders established the King Alfred School, whose purpose was to educate the whole child. Learning would take place in a non-selective, co-educational setting in which staff would work collaboratively with pupils, using teaching based on the latest scientific methods, in an environment free from unnecessary pressures. We marked our 125th anniversary celebrations in June 2023. There was much merriment on the field, and I smile because I remember it exactly that way, as old Alfredians in the hundreds flocked back to their former educational home, mingling with current families and students, reminiscing about their days and how things have changed yet feel just the same. It's heartwarming to know that as time marches on and developments occur at KASS, the school maintains its magical feeling. That slightly intangible thing that KASS does for students, realised in the main once they leave the gates and start their lives in the wider adult world. Their confidence, their interest, their intellectual curiosity in the material of life. This past year has felt like the first clear period post the pandemic, and with an excellent inspection report under the school's belt from spring 22, there has been the opportunity to feel more settled and at ease. For this year's exams, however, the government stipulated back to normal grading for GCSEs and A-levels, which felt harsh for a cohort still impacted by the pandemic. GCSEs were slightly below our historical averages, although value added showed students made progress in line with expectations. A-level results, meanwhile, were the strongest in the school's history under normal exam conditions, and progression routes to university and other courses was exceptional. This year has seen us continue to innovate on the education front. The 6 to 8 curriculum is in its third year, reflecting and modifying as cohorts join, a very KASS-like experience, adapting to the inhabitants of each year. 9 to 11 progresses, and this year saw the addition of KASS literature, mixing contemporary and old texts, voices from all parts of British culture, the combination of assessment via essays, vivas, presentations, and exams makes this edition a superbly rounded course for Year 10 and 11 students. Alongside this, the Global Challenges school-directed course is now in its second year. There's been much work to establish the currency of these courses in the educational community, and we will continue to build our offer to provide teenage students broad and interesting subjects to study alongside their GCSE choices. A key pillar of the Society's founding aims as a charity was to the commitment of widening access to a King Alfred education beyond those who were able to afford fees. In the school's current strategy, this is expressed as our impact on the world and takes the form of the direct funding of bursary places and hardship support, as well as our undertaking to share our educational research, which Cara mentioned, and practice across the broader educational community. Our current profile in the national educational debate is strong. This year, we will be a lead partner for a conference on the future direction of education at Manchester University, again, to Cara's point. We also now feature in reports on educational reform, and in particular, the Lord's report on the 11 to 16 education. This has been a long-standing motivation of the founding society, and it is exciting to see it happening with the prospect of a new government on the horizon. It's council's role as school governors to set strategic direction and oversee the governance, finance and educational delivery of the school. As a governing body, we too must pay attention to our own governance, and this year we're undergoing a supported self-review. Reflection is a useful tool, and this process will set us up well for the next phase of council's life. This year's school also said a sad goodbye to Victoria Healy, but welcomed in Caroline Kornitsky. She could not have joined the school at a more crucial time as we, like many other fee-paying independent schools, work towards anticipating a new Labour government and the introduction of VAT on school fees and the removal of business rates exemption based on our charitable status. We will have much strategic thinking and planning to do over this next period in order to work out how best to navigate this new challenge. The work of the alumni and development team continues to grow and bear fruit, and the OAs are particularly enjoying a new addition to their community in the form of KASS Connected, our own professional networking platform. With the appointment of a Director of Communications, we're also in the process of introducing a school portal fit for the 21st century to aid communication to all parts of the school community. These two departments will be crucial to the realisation of the school's master plan work. The school's understanding and work on DEI also continues to grow, with parent, student and staff forums in place. It is clear that the community as a whole wants to play a positive role in this area as we work towards growing a culture that more accurately reflects the city and world in which we live. Financially, the school has ended the year well. The challenges of the current economic climate and the potential impact of VAT on school fees mean that most independent schools will be working incredibly hard to maintain themselves. We feel very fortunate that the interest in applications to join KASS grow year on year, and we're able to feel confident about keeping our school full of fun-loving, bright and independent learning students. This AGM, as ever, heralds our annual retirement from and election to Council. This year, we say thank you and farewell to Christian Schmidt, Robert Dye, a co-opted governor, and Annabelle Cody. Words cannot really say how grateful we are to our outgoing chair, Annabelle, for her 9-year tenure, in which she steered much strategic change, not least the establishment of development and comms, educational progress with lower school, 6 to 8, 9 to 11, and the master plan. I felt really bad, actually, because I didn't think that Annabelle was going to come, so I grabbed her earlier and went, oh, by the way, I really am going to say something about you. The legacy of her tenure, for sure, will live on for many years to come. Robert Dye, as our co-opted governor to G&B in the master plan, brought his architect thoughtfulness and expertise to this work. And Christian Schmidt supported the school in his tenure with work on organisational structure and appraisal. We welcomed in Joe Tang, Lara McCann, Nick Harper and Sophia Senroy. A huge thank you to all council members for their continued commitment and dedication to their governor roles and work. As we look towards some big changes on the horizon, we shall be focusing on what we as a school can do to adapt, thrive and prosper. We will only achieve that with the hugely talented head, SLT team, teaching and support staff. From Ruth in Cassbachs to Robert R. Head, their commitment and contribution towards the school and its whole community is outstanding, and for which we give thanks. Thank you. Right, so I'm now going to hand over to Fiona, Chair of G&B.
Is that okay? Can you hear me okay? Good. So as Sam just said, I'm Fiona and I'm Chair of the Grounds and Buildings Committee, and I've been on council for more than 20 years with 2 children who were here throughout their education and now in their 30s. So it's been a very long association and I still feel very privileged to be here. The role of our committee is to support the school in thinking about projects large and small, what impact they might have on the site and how best they might be executed. In fact, it's customary for me to talk through the last year and any developments there might have been, But it has been a quiet year in terms of major projects, and so on this occasion I would like to go back a bit further, not least because our estates manager Zar is leaving for pastures new, and it seemed a good moment to think about what he and I have shared in terms of the school site over the last 20 years. In fact, he said that within 10 days of his arrival, there was a lightning strike to a crane in the housing development being built, which burnt out a massive amount of circuitry in the school, and incidentally, and I didn't know this, lifted people off their feet in the gym. And Zar said it certainly was a literal crash course in the infrastructure of the buildings to get everything up and running again. There have been many such occasions of natural disasters to cope with, from major gas leaks to massive flooding. But through it all, Zar and the team have managed to get the school functional again as quickly and with as little disruption as possible. He also brought in a system for recording the status of the infrastructure for every building so that repair and maintenance happened in a timely manner rather than always responding to some kind of emergency failure. This, in the long term, saves the school money and helps with the smooth operation of the whole site. There is also very regular appraisal of all the trees, which are such an integral part of the school, to make sure they are healthy and safe. There has, over his tenure, been many big building projects, which started with the DT building in Ivywood. I think I just joined the G&B committee, and I remember the hoarding around it being decorated by the children with the help of an artist parent, who I'm told actually painted the Queen. Each child painted a tile, which became part of a bigger picture, which, when installed, created a huge and very impressive image of a JCB. Within it there were little windows so they could see through to the construction work beyond. The building was beautifully made, fits the site so well with its green roof and timber cladding, and still serves its purpose without effort. The Fives Court building followed, and Zar reminded me how our school architect at the time, Belinda, had a brainwave of taking the plans provided by the architects Walters and Cohen and shrinking everything so that it could be built from standard length building materials, which made it much more cost effective and essentially became a design and build project. It also gave us the Undercroft area, which provided storage. Another beautiful building. I have always liked the way the staff room is just a step away from the playground. I know this was intentional to support the KAS ethos of teachers being approachable and available, and is such a lovely way to foster this idea. The tree house was also rebuilt after the old one became too rotten for safety. New regulations had come in, and it now had to comply with BS EN 1176, safety standards for play equipment. Those who remember the old tree house will know it was very high and challenging and definitely would not have complied. Somehow, with the help of parent and engineer Tim Lucas, oak trees were brought from a wood in the Midlands, arriving on huge lorries and being erected on metal shoes to prevent them from rotting. So we do have a modern equivalent tree house, and there are plans in the pipeline to extend it and add another platform, which the students are helping to design. There followed the fitness studio on the site of the boat building shed, which has come into its own and is very well used. It sits on the edge of a small meadow, one of the small, tranquil spaces which KAS offers to its community. Belinda designed, and she and Zar oversaw the building of the new estates office, which I think is a lovely little building, on the site of the staff smoking room. Hard to believe we had one of those. One might have imagined COVID would have put a stop to further building ambitions, but not at all. The sixth form centre was built during this period, despite soaring costs and difficulties obtaining materials. Zar recalled meeting a supplier on the hard shoulder of the M25 for those last few bags of plaster, and a mad dash to pick up the Akoya handrail from a supplier who was literally closing the warehouse doors for lockdown. 36,000 screws later, Zar says he put in the last screw, the building was finished on time and on budget, and very beautiful too. They even managed to protect the Persian ironwood tree, which is quite a rare specimen. It has provided the school with a wonderful space to encourage and support our sixth formers, and has allowed for many more to come in from other schools to access our education for those last 2 crucial years. None of this could have happened without a strong estates team led by Zar. who have also had to manage greatly expanding pupil numbers. There were 400 in 2003, and we now have 715, which results in greater wear and tear on the fabric of buildings and erosion of the grounds. Of course, some members of this state team are more visible to council than others. Errant, waiting to clear out our debris after a longer meeting than usual, for example, but our thanks must go to them all. In addition, these days there are more stakeholders, from insurers to health and safety, whose input and expectations are greater and more onerous than 20 years ago. And yet the grounds still have quiet corners and a feeling of space and freedom which we must continue to cherish and nurture. I had this brought very forcibly to my attention the other day when I met with a landscape architect who had never been to the school before. He was clearly astonished by what he saw. He could not believe that the students with DT had built a crane to move the huge trunks of the sweet chestnut tree from Squirrel Hall over to the treehouse. He marvelled at the treehouse itself. He was altogether very excited, despite being used to working with a number of North London private schools. Just for a moment, I saw KAS with fresh eyes as I stood under the huge poplar tree by the treehouse and realised anew just what a special place this is. I can't say how things will look in 20 years' time, except that there will be other new buildings and a continual thoughtful evolution of the site, guided by our master plan. I can also say that the success of the previous 20 years has been in large part a tribute to Zara's diligence, expertise, long hours and love for the school, and I would like to say a huge thank you on behalf of the G&B committee for making that commitment, and we wish him every success and happiness in his new school. Thank you.
I vowed when I heard that Zara was leaving to write a poem. Stupid really, to write a poem for a poet, but it did it anyway. Comes from a long line of doggerel that Liz Croker and I started 40 years ago, anytime anybody left. Gentle giant of KASS estates, sat high in his leafy treehouse nest. His knowledge of our cherished wood is fond and deep, like no one's else. Many's the day the sight of his form has made me feel safe and protected and warm. If Zara's on the gate, all must be well. There'll be no double parking on the hill. He has shared with us his whole life story, some pain and hurt and family strife. How he took solace in the library, found books and wisdom and a wife. His brain's become a library, so many books he stored in o'er time, and words became his dearest tools, stitching with them a cloth of rhyme. His voice is calm and soothes on tape, helping his friends to meditate. His relaxation regime can bring on the deepest sleep from dusk till dawn. Teacher, philosopher, guru and guide, poet and a friend who lends some zen. We've loved you, but the best by far is to know we've been lucky with a friend like Zara. But this is not a grief-filled ode. Zara's not dead or off to war. A big adventure waits him now. So onwards and upwards is our roar.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you, Cara. You know you're at a KASS AGM when you've got a poem in the mix. Over to Nick Friedlos for his Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Sam, and good evening, everybody. I tell you what, I'm going to just adjust this upwards a little bit because I'm a shade taller than Fiona. How do you do this? There we go. That's probably better. That's better. So in the next few minutes, Sam and Julie, I should just explain for those that don't know me, as Sam said, I'm Nick Friedlos. I've been on council now, I think, since 2015 or thereabouts, but I've been involved with the school since 2006 when the first of our 4 children started the journey. So we've got 2 who've gone through, and we've got 2 still here. And certainly, I think, in relation to the 2 that have gone through, there is no doubt that this has been a fantastic experience for them and given them a lot as they move on to the next phase of their lives. In the next few minutes, I'll just say a few words about finances at KASS. And I'm going to cover it in 3 broad areas as I've done in the past. First, I'd just like to explain to you how we manage finances at KASS, in particular what's the role of the executive team and the role of council. So some of you will have heard this before, apologies for that, but I think for people that are new here or attending for the first time tonight, I think it's just important to set the scene. Secondly, I'm going to say something about the 2023 accounts, which you will be asked formally to approve as part of the formal business tonight. And finally, to talk about some of the challenges we face. Sam's alluded to it a little bit, but it's very much on our minds, so I thought we should address it. Even though a lot of dealing with it is still work in progress, I just want to talk to you a little bit about how we are thinking about it. But first, a welcome. Sam has welcomed Caroline, but I would like to add my welcome to Caroline Konetsky, who's joined us as our new Director of Finance and Operations. Welcome. There are some other... through a hard-fought selection process, I can tell you. There's been some other changes in the finance team as well, and I'll just mention those at the end. Just a little bit about the school's financial approach to financial matters, and it really is a kind of 2-tier approach involving both the school's executive team and council. So the school's executive team is really on finance, very much led by Caroline, reporting to Robert and sitting as part of his senior leadership team. She is responsible with her team for the kind of day-to-day financial matters you would expect. Raising fee bills, paying our staff, paying our suppliers, producing accounts, managing budgets and so on, but also importantly, developing financial strategies and plans looking forward. Council, as part of its legal responsibilities, has a duty to ensure that the school's financial risks are properly managed. And this includes ensuring that the school has a sustainable financial plan. In other words, that our financial position, as far as we can see looking forward, is in sufficient shape to enable us to continue in the foreseeable future, to have the resources we need to continue to operate, to invest in our facilities, and to provide the education that we all want to provide to our children. So that's what we mean by a sustainable financial plan, that we can carry on doing that. So as well as the regular oversight of financial management, Council is very much involved in those longer-term, medium and longer-term financial decisions. We get involved in approving annual budgets, fee rises, decisions on borrowings, decisions on capital expenditure programs, and so on. But working very much with Robert and Caroline in a collaborative way. As Treasurer, I'm the council member with particular responsibility for coordinating, if you like, the financial decision or the management of the financial risks by council. We operate through a finance committee, which comprises 6 other council members, plus me. We meet twice a term with Robert and Caroline. We look at the regular sort of financial stuff you would expect, but importantly, we're a forum for discussing the things that we need to think about going forwards. And where necessary, we make formal recommendations to council on the things that they need to give their approval for. Turning now to the accounts for the year ended July 2023, which are on the website, and you have copies of them on the tables. These accounts have been reviewed and approved by council. They've also been audited by our auditors, and they've received a clean audit opinion. As you will see from the accounts in the year to July 2023, we made a reasonable level of financial surplus, and rather better than the result the year before, which had been a bit below average. And certainly, it is a feature of life that our results do go up and down. Last year's result is a result really of continued strong cost control and also very strong student numbers. On student numbers, though, we're sort of nearing capacity, so we can't just carry on growing numbers and fee income from students willy-nilly forever. But at the moment, we're in we've produced a good result last year. I've said before, but I think it's worth reiterating, that KASS, unlike some independent schools, does not have any financial endowment. So we have to sort of, we live off, we live from day to day. We sort of eat what we kill, as it were. Not literally. Actually, I think the school lunches have got better. But basically, whatever we spend has to be covered by our fee income, which is obviously mainly from school fees, topped up by rentals and KASS bucks and some fundraising and so on, but essentially from fees. So this means that although we're a charity and we're not aiming to make a profit necessarily, we do need to continue, if we're to continue to maintain our buildings and invest in our estate and our education, we need to actually make a surplus of income over expenditure each year in order to be able to do that, because we have nothing else to fall back on. In terms of our balance sheet, we continue to have a good cash position at the year end, and we didn't need to use our overdraft in 2023. In addition, when it was in the run-up to COVID, or actually during COVID, we didn't really know what the financial impact on that was going to be for us. So we, as a kind of precautionary measure almost, took out a loan for £1 million. Fortunately, we didn't really need that loan, so we repaid it last year. Notwithstanding that repayment, we are going to ask the meeting to authorise us to borrow again should we need to do so. And the purpose of that, I hope we won't need it, but should something crop up, it gives us the flexibility without having to convene another annual general meeting to go out and borrow a loan from the bank should we really need to do so. At the conclusion of my comments tonight, Caroline, as Sam explained earlier, will ask you to vote on the 2023 accounts, and there'll be an opportunity to ask any questions on those accounts at that point. So looking forward, we face a number of challenges. Some of these arise from the general economic climate, cost pressures and so on, but others of them are really coming about as a result of particular political risks. The decision by the government to increase the pension contribution from 23.68% to 28.68% on the government pension scheme to which most of our teachers belong is obviously an immediate issue. That potentially comes in April, and that's an issue on which we're consulting with our staff at the moment. In terms of wider political risks, I think probably outright loss of charitable status, which we've talked about in the past, is probably less of an immediate issue, but some other things have really come up the agenda. So loss of business rates relief, which again Sam referred to, and of course very significantly VAT on fees and its potential impact on affordability, on school numbers, and ultimately on the financial position of the school looms large. And of course it's not just KASS, it's the whole independent sector. Although depending on for those that have got big financial endowments, it's probably a bit easier to manage. So the imposition of VAT represents a very significant cost burden. We're currently exploring how that burden can be shared, what the options are for generating additional income, for example, and developing a financial plan for the next few years. This is still work in progress. So unfortunately, I don't have specific solutions to share with you tonight. But what I can say is it will be occupying almost all of our attention for the rest of this term, and I suspect next term as well, as we work through it. We recognise the importance of this issue to parents, and we will certainly be communicating with everybody over the coming months, and indeed seeking input from the parent body on one or two things. On the optimistic note, again, as Sam said, looking forward, yes, we've got some challenges ahead, but I think we can take comfort from the fact that there is very, very strong demand for our school. And that's great for, great for our education, great for our community, and great for our finances. And finally, Caroline, as I said, joined in November and has thrown herself well and truly into the role. There were some other changes in the finance team at the beginning of the summer holidays last year, which made the summer holidays themselves and the first half of the autumn term quite a difficult period. And I'd really like to thank everybody who dug in and helped out at that point. I'd also particularly like to welcome Alex, who's recently joined the finance team and is carrying on that good work, and also Denise, who has taken on some additional responsibilities recently. So I think really just to record our thanks and appreciation to them. That concludes my comments. So I'm now going to hand you over to Caroline, who's going to take you through the formal business.
Just move it down a bit. Is that okay? Is that working? Yeah, okay. So, hello. I'm delighted to attend my first AGM, so thank you for having me. Now, I'm doing the formal bit of the meeting, but before I start asking you to get some exercise and throw your arms in the air and vote on various things, before we vote on the accounts in particular, has anybody got any questions on the accounts? There should be a copy on each table. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to fire away. No, it's like that bit at a wedding where you just sort of... Great, perfect, thank you very much. I will crack on. Lovely, right, your turn for some exercise. So Nick Friedloss is proposing the adoption of Council's report and accounts for the year ended 31st of July 2023 and the balance sheet as at that date, and it's been seconded by Nick Harper. Can I have a show of hands for all those in favour to adopt those accounts, please? Thank you very much. Glancing over at Caroline. The other Caroline. If anybody shouts Caroline in the bursary, we're in trouble. Okay, auditors. Nick Friedloss is proposing that Hayes McIntyre be reappointed and that their remuneration be fixed by council, and I understand that's been seconded by Sarah Phillips. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Hayes Mac are reappointed and remuneration agreed. Borrowing limit. Nick mentioned this earlier, so we don't use this facility at the moment, but I understand it's an annual thing that we just agree it in case we ever need to use it. So members confirm that Council is authorised in accordance with the Articles of Association to exercise the Society's power to borrow on mortgage or charge by way of entering into facilities from time to time up to an aggregate limit of £3 million initial principal amount of such facilities at any time. And Philip Whale has agreed to propose, and Fiona has agreed to second. All those in favour of approving that, please? The borrowing limit. Lovely. Thank you very much. Change to the year end. To resolve that the Society's accounting year end should change from 31st of July every year to the 31st of August in each year to match up with the academic year. The accounting year end for the current financial year shall therefore end on the 31st of August 2024, and that's been proposed by Nick Friedloss and seconded by Sophia Senroy. All those in favour, show of hands, please. Thank you very much. Election of officers. So we accept the retirement. We sadly accept the retirement of Annabelle Cody and Christian Schmidt, and the retirement by rotation of Amy Chapman, Sam Jukes-Adams, and Philip Whale. So do we vote on that one first, Caroline, before, or do we have to take? We don't have to vote on any of these. No, it's just accepting them, I think. Yes. And there is no president train coming, sorry, Cara. So I'd like to report the nominations for president of Cara Conti has been proposed by Emma Sevitt and seconded by Christine Prowse. All in favour to raise your hands. Bad luck. Thank you, Cara. Thank you, everybody. I also need to report the nomination for treasurer, Nick Friedloss, which is proposed by Sam Jukes-Adams and seconded by Julia Cooper. All in favour? Thank you very much. Right, that's enough from me. You can exercise over and hand back to Sam. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Oh God, hang on, to do this thing. God, I really am smaller than I thought I was. Oh well, I'm just going to stay small and talk tall. So any questions on the reports so far? Nothing? Actually, if I put my glasses on and then I can actually check. Nope? Okay, great. So that concludes the formal part of the AGM, and we're going to have a short 10-minute break, and then we're going to hand over to Robert to hear from Robert. If anyone has not yet voted, please complete the paper ballot form and put it in the ballot box over there during the interval. I need to advise council members that the next meeting will be our strategy day on Saturday, the 24th of March. 23rd of March. 23rd of March, not 24th of March. And we will also be holding induction sessions for our new council members, and we'll be in touch to let you know when those dates are once the voting has been cleared and we know who our new members are. I look forward to seeing you all next year. Thank you for coming tonight. Big thank you to Cara, as ever, for not heralding the train. Thank you to all the speakers here for their reports and for their work, and thank you all for attending.